when we're buying locally sourced food, when we're buying organic in the supermarkets and the shops, the prices automatically seem to be higher. There's obviously a cost to get the produce from the producer to the outlet. Is it worth paying that extra cost to get locally sourced food?
I believe because the flavour it definitely is, and also because it gets to you quicker, it's fresher and will last longer, so there's less waste. So that's a very important part. How much of your fridge do you throw away each week? So I think it's a matter of the customer demanding what they want and saying, where's that from, in a restaurant, in a shop, is it local, and be proud to eat Yorkshire.
As farmers, we haven't ever had to market ourselves. We're now marketing products, and consumers and they're really interested in finding out where things have come, how they're produced. They then attach what we tell them, and sort of, if it's a local message, they remember that. And the best thing about it is they usually go and tell their friends as well. You can spend a fortune on advertising, but if you hear from a friend that something's good, you usually try it yourself.
So we've got it from the farmers, we've got it from the producers, we've got it from the sellers. What about local restaurants, Michael? What difference does locally produced food make to you as a restaurateur?
Well, fundamentally, there's a demand among customers to eat it. People want to eat a local product, and they're keen. You create a sense of buzz. Asparagus is a brilliant example. You know, it's a short UK season. It moves around a little bit with the weather, so that you can never say that you're going to have it in the first week in May. But when it comes, you can create real interest among your customer group. Now I can go. Now I can have it. Is it ready or not quite? Going to come next week, and that generates some sense of an event and some sense of happening. It reconnects people with their environment. They feel involved, they feel interested, they're prepared to pay a premium for the product. They don't want to eat it all year round terribly much anyway. You know, it's great to have a little blitz on something. You know, that's why do we love Christmas? Because it comes once a year. If it was every day, we'd be sick of it.
Now the consumer is more concerned about where their food's come from. They want to know where it's sourced, and as Steve was saying, they want to taste that freshness. Why do you think all of a sudden we've got to this point?
Well, we are what we eat. You know, food's a way of life, and there have been, I think, a lot of food scares over the last year, and people have been concerned about where things have come from, what their history is, what their provenance is, what's been done with it. And sadly, at the same time, we've been educated by supermarkets that you can get good things cheaply. Now, clearly, you can't get good things cheaply. You don't get out for out in this part of the world, particularly Yorkshire. And local produce is not more expensive, but my view is it gives better value because it's supporting the local economy. It's also, I think, restoring back the right value for the product. And interestingly, the two supermarket chains, the largest ones, have both recently admitted that perhaps they're going to have to start paying more for the products they're getting. And that's because they realise that the middle ground of a lot of their business is being leached away by direct delivery, farm shops, farmers markets and so on, and they can't afford that to happen. So they know that this is not a fad. People are more interested than ever on where their food has come from, and they're keen to make sure that they know its history and its provenance. The best way of doing that is to look to buy local and develop a relationship with your local supplier.
Are there any problems in buying local? Are we finding that the large supermarkets are resisting the idea of taking in locally produced food?
Well, it's not that they're resisting the idea, in fact they're rushing at it because I think they appreciate that they need to have local ranges to satisfy that growing customer demand. A lot of the small producers are very happy producing for the local independent deli, for the farm shop nearby, but the minute they get involved with large retail, there are very different rules of engagement. I think it's great to think that you'll be able to get more local produce from your supermarket as well as a local independent, but I think both parties have to be wary because it's a very different process that supermarkets are doing by buying and working with local producers, and there's education needed on both sides.
Let's bring Heather in on this because to some extent you've already done this. You're getting a locally produced shop and you've got a position for it, and it's very close to one of the leading supermarkets. Have you come across any problems, any resistance in getting your shop established?
No, not at all. I think the supermarket involved is Sainsbury's, and they've been very supportive of what we're doing. They make money out of DVDs and parcel, and I think also it wouldn't help British farmers, and they need to sell food to supermarkets. They are the biggest outlets, so we've got to work with the supermarkets, engage with them, and I think that's very important. I think what we're doing next door shows exactly that's happening.
what you look for in business is what differentiates you from the competition. Yes, you're quite right, the supermarkets have taken local produce, but very often they pack it in plastic. Whether they do it for extended shelf life or whatever, I really don't know, but I would say that that's still something that sort of we as local producers can say, this product is so fresh, it can literally be sort of one day in the field and the next day you can have it and it's delivered to your door or you can get it from a farm shop. And in Michael's case, he can be serving that up the very next day. The supermarkets aren't going to go away, and I mean, it's no good farmers ever thinking they will. They take a terrific amount of their produce anyhow, but as Jonathan says, they're probably realising that they're going to have to pay a little bit more for produce. From this year's climatic conditions in this country, I think we're all going to have to start paying a little bit more for our food, and we're probably going to have to pay what the true cost of food is, which for a lot of years we've been getting food that has possibly been under the cost of true production. That's given the message to farmers that they're not really wanted and nobody wants to support them. And I think we're going to see a change from that, and we're going to see support for our local produce, national produce, and hopefully a fair return. You get the best of the freshness, you get the best of the quality, and if you buy in season, you get the best price too.
Yorkshire is known as God's own county, and I think we're very lucky in the fact that we have such a huge diversity of local food. So to celebrate it, eat it, enjoy it, the flavour, the freshness, the fact that it's good for you.
I think one of the great things about Yorkshire is its diversity. It has coastline and moors and dales, it has arable land and the floodplains of Vale of York and so forth. Huge number of different sorts of products, and we're seeing this return to less intensive livestock rearing and more traditional, and the use of traditional breeds. And we're beginning to see, and this is echo something Steve was saying earlier, the return of natural and historic flavour to what we're using. And there is real potential for that in Yorkshire.
And really, just to sum up, we've got very proud, industrious, enterprising people making the most of all those facilities and all that environment. That's what makes Yorkshire different.
Some really interesting things discussed there. If you'd like to find out more about Framework for Change and the sustainable farming and food strategy for Yorkshire and the Humber, the details are below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next year.